I'll say no more, but there is badness in this house.
But what about the red paint on the banister? Or that horrid little book about how to embalm a corpse?
How would you like it if your grandfather brought a loathsome blonde into the house?
My solicitor will be here by lunchtime.
I mean, if it comes right down to it, what happened to the arsenic?
The house is simply seething with intrigue.
It is you, my dear Chief Inspector, who's going to be the pigeon among the cats.
A House of Horror in the Inspector Allen Mysteries, tomorrow at 7:30 on BBC One.
BBC Wales on One, the news at 5:15 with Jenny Bond.
The President of Sri Lanka has been assassinated in a suicide bomb attack. The explosion tore through a May Day procession, killing the President and up to 10 of his bodyguards. Violence at a May Day rally in Moscow. More than 100 people were injured as anti-Yeltsin protesters clashed with police. And under arrest, the man wanted in connection with the murder of a young mother and her baby in Luton. Good evening. The President of Sri Lanka, Ranasinghe Premadasa, has been assassinated by a suicide bomber during a May Day rally in Colombo. About 14 other people, including members of the President's bodyguard, are thought to have died in the explosion. Sri Lanka has suffered a decade of ethnic and political violence.
Ranasinghe Premadasa was a populist to the core, and it was no surprise to find him milling with the crowd. The President, who always said he was most comfortable when he was with common people, was giving last-minute instructions for the May Day rally when the bomber struck.
The procession led by some of the leading ministers was approaching, and he signaled the procession to go, and then he stood by and organizing another procession which came on the byline to join the main procession. And immediately there was a bomb blast, and many have died.
The result, an all too familiar scene of carnage in a city that has seen more than its fair share of killings recently. At least 14 people have been killed and many more injured. Eyewitnesses say they saw a man running towards the President. The explosives are thought to have been strapped to the assassin. The suicide bomb is a favourite tactic of the Tamil Tiger separatist movement, and it must surely be on the list of suspects. The movement has denied involvement, and in truth it's not clear that any alternative president would be more amenable to the Tamils, but causing mayhem may have been goal enough. The assassination comes just days after the murder of an opposition leader and rival to Mr. Premadasa. At the time, many accused elements in the president's ruling party, giving rise to rumours that today's killing may have been a political reprisal. Certainly, Mr. Premadasa was not short of enemies. As the first president from Sri Lanka's lower castes, Mr. Premadasa enjoyed huge support among poor Sinhalese, who are the majority. A nationwide curfew is in place to prevent revenge attacks on minority Tamils.
At least 100 people have been injured in Moscow during clashes between riot police and protesters who were staging a May Day demonstration against President Yeltsin. Moscow television said 70 members of the security forces had been injured in the violence, the worst in the capital since the failed coup attempt in August 1991. Police have denied reports that several people were killed in the fighting.
3 former communist leaders, 2 of them standing trial for the 1991 coup attempt, were among the marchers. It soon turned violent. Protesters commandeered trucks being used by riot police to block their way and drove them into the police ranks. A furious battle broke out, and a policeman was crushed between trucks as they careered out of control. It was the worst street violence in Moscow since the communist coup 2 years ago. More than 100 people were taken to hospital, though early reports of deaths have not been confirmed. The violence spiraled as the police used water cannon and the demonstrators set fire to trucks. The police were armed with truncheons, but the protesters' flagpoles were longer and just as effective. As Boris Yeltsin embarks on a cautious dialogue with his more moderate critics, the hardliners used today's events to announce what they called a war against the regime, and not just with stones, but with weapons. Angus Roxburgh, BBC News, Moscow.
A man is being questioned by Bedfordshire police about the killing in Luton yesterday of a young mother and her 7-month-old baby. David Edwards was arrested early this morning in London.
Police began a huge hunt for David Edwards after his abandoned van was found in woods near Luton. The 21-year-old was eventually arrested in the early hours of this morning, walking beside the River Thames in London. He was taken later to Luton Police Station, where he's being questioned by detectives.
I'm just here to confirm that a man answering the description of David John Edwards was arrested this morning during the early hours of this morning in the City of London by two City of London officers, and that a shotgun has been recovered.
Yesterday afternoon, 22-year-old Marina Turvey was walking in this street near her home in Luton when she was shot in the head by a man armed with a shotgun. The man then grabbed her 7-month-old daughter Charlene. He threw her in the back of his van and drove off. The baby's body was later found on farmland near the Bedfordshire-Hertfordshire border. She also died from gunshot wounds. Police say they've been taking statements this afternoon from witnesses to yesterday's shooting, and they've been continuing to question Mr. Edwards here at Luton Police Station. Detectives say charges may follow later this evening. Adam Minot, BBC News, Luton.
The international negotiator, Lord Owen, has said peace is within the grasp of the warring communities of Bosnia if everyone at the emergency summit in Athens has the courage to seize it. The main aim of the talks, which began this afternoon, is to get the Bosnian Serbs to sign the Vance-Owen peace plan.
What's brought everyone flying so suddenly to Athens has been the turnaround by President Milosevic of Serbia. He's thrown his weight on the side of the peace plan and against the Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic, who until now has opted for war. The international negotiators hope a few minor concessions will finally win agreement for their proposals.
Peace, which has so long eluded the former Yugoslavia, is now, I think, within our grasp, if only everyone has the courage to seize it. And I hope this conference sets the tone and the spirit for over the next few days, a final conclusion and an acceptance of all parts of the peace plan.
They're operating under a deadline. While they gather at an out-of-season holiday hotel, America is making plans to intervene in the war. The biggest fear here is that Washington may miscalculate and offer support for the Muslims while the conference is still in session. Then the pressure intended to bring Serbs to the table may encourage the Muslims to walk away from it. Brian Hanrahan, BBC News, Athens.
In Bosnia itself, 15 people are reported to have been killed and up to 60 wounded during heavy shelling of the capital, Sarajevo. In one attack, shells hit a pedestrian area in front of the city's Roman Catholic cathedral. The world's top woman tennis player, Monica Seles, is recovering in hospital after being stabbed by a spectator during a match in Germany last night. This morning, Miss Seles was visited by her arch-rival, Steffi Graf. Police believe the man who stabbed Miss Seles did it because he wanted Miss Graf to regain the title of world number 1. Miss Seles may not be able to play again for up to 4 months. 2 Britons who died at the end of the siege at the Branch Davidian religious cult's headquarters near Waco in Texas have been named. Investigators who've examined their charred bodies say Livingston Malcolm was asphyxiated by smoke and carbon monoxide and possibly shot. Stephen Henry was shot in the head. Stephen Henry's mother, brother and 3 sisters are also thought to have died in the siege. His father, who tried to persuade his family to leave, flew to Texas earlier this week. In South Africa, police have charged the wife of a prominent Conservative politician, Gay Derby Lewis, with the murder of the black communist leader Chris Hani. Meanwhile, a series of May Day rallies have passed off without incident and attracted only small crowds around the country. The biggest gathering was staged by 500 ANC supporters who marched through the Conservative stronghold of Vereeniging near Johannesburg. And that's all for now. More news and sport at 7 o'clock over on BBC Two.
Temperatures were some 16 degrees Celsius lower in parts of Scotland today, and that sets the scene for the rest of the country. That cold front will continue to move on, and those northerly winds will eventually filter down by the end of the night, probably, to the rest of the country, setting, as I say, the scene for somewhat cooler weather for the rest of the holiday weekend. Now, at the moment, we have a thunderstorm lurking between Hastings and Tunbridge Wells, 1 or 2 showers to the north. Indeed, there are 1 or 2 showers even further to the north, around northern and western Scotland. So we'll find, I think, that there will be many places having some cloud and bits and pieces of rain to start the night, and these thundery showers in the southeast will take a while before they die away. And as they die away and skies then clear, there'll be some mist and fog patches. Further to the north, again, as skies clear, It is going to end up a very much colder night than for quite a while, a widespread ground frost, even in some places a touch of air frost. There's that cold front tomorrow just moving away very, very slowly from the southeastern part of the country, and that area I think will start off rather misty, fair amount of cloud around, much cloudier day tomorrow than it has been of late, and just here and there perhaps one or two light showers or spots of rain, but brightening up all the while. For the rest of the country there will be some sunshine, but it will be cooler and fresher, and there'll be some showers, chiefly in the northwestern corner there, those showers wintry over the Scottish mountains. Temperatures in most places either similar to or lower than today's.
The boys with the guns, the technicals, have gone on the rampage and have done a lot of damage and have picked off people and there's been targeted killings.
It was a calculated thing. He had waited for Sean on the corner of the street.
The children knew him as Mr. Sean.
He must have died fairly quickly, if not instantly.
Every Man celebrates the life of murdered aid worker Sean Devereux, tomorrow at 10:30 on BBC One.
Underway on BBC Wales on 2 now, a roundup of the day's sport in Wales on Saturday. Here on BBC Wales on 1, as the rugby season reaches a climax, a look back at Wales's fortunes in the Five Nations Championship 1993.